Hello, and thank you everybody for joining our live session. Let me just put my phone on Do Not Disturb somehow. Focus, Do Not Disturb. Great. All right. So now that we are live, just wanted to tell everybody thank you for joining us. We are going today to talk about launching a freight broker business. So there's a lot of people that are interested in launching their freight broker business. It is fairly, it is a little bit complicated, but when you have the right guidance, it could be done fairly easily. There's a lot of people, I think over 300 people that have downloaded so far the 10 steps to opening up their freight broker business. So today's session is not about trucking. It's not about opening up a trucking company. It's not about fuel consumption. It is about opening up a freight broker business from home. A lot of people start it from home and then they start scaling. So how in the world do we open a freight broker business? So I thought it would be very interesting to talk about the potential earnings of a freight broker. So many comments whenever I do videos, so many comments on freight brokers and how they, take the biggest chunk and how they make the most amount of money and how they do, they a load pays $1,500, they take $500 to themselves, and then they talk and then they pay the carrier only $1,000, where they make 30%, 40%, 50%. I have a brokerage company here at ET Transport, and I wanted you all to know that, the days of making 50%, 45, 50, even 40% on a load, those days are long gone. Realistically speaking, freight brokers make anywhere between, I would say, 8 till the maximum, maybe on LTL loads, you're probably looking at around 20%. But if you think about 8% to 20%, that's still quite a large profit margin to be making. 8% to 20%. I mean, 20% on a $2,000 load is $400. I mean, you think about $400 for literally just making a few phone calls, for finding the carrier, dispatching the carrier, make sure that they pick up on time, deliver on time, and here you have $400 in your pocket. I mean, that's a pretty good chunk of margin to work with. Now, if you're only making, let's say, 10% on a $2,000 load, well, that's $200. Now, from the freight brokers that I have here, I mean, we have the ones that are here for 6 months, for 1 year, for 5 years, for 10 years. I even have somebody here that's been with us for about 17 years now. She's been with us. Now, I can assure you, I mean, that her book of business is very large, and she does at least probably maybe 6 to 8 loads a day is what she moves. But let's talk about the beginners. Let's talk about the ones that are in it for the first 6 months, the first 8 months, the first 12 months. I mean, the first 3 months, you are literally just making phone calls. You're calling manufacturing plants. You are, building your book of business. And how do you build your book of business? I have a step-by-step, the guide that we put together is great, that you guys have all downloaded. If you didn't download it, I can link it up below. But in my freight broker course, I mean, we talk about how to go after manufacturing plants. And there's, 2 modules dedicated out of the 10 on how to go after manufacturing plants, the scripts that we're going to be using to call them, how are we going to start our freight broker business. But even if you're doing, your first 3 months, even if you're doing 1 to 2 loads per week, we're still making, even at 10%, you're still making $200 to $400 per week just by moving 2 to 4 loads a week. Now, that is just to get the ball rolling, to get the ball moving. I mean, if you keep at it with the phone calls, and if you keep at with going after customers, now you're probably earning about, in month number 4, you should be moving about probably 4 to 6 loads a week. Now that's already $400 to $600 only at 10% commissions. $600, multiply that by 4. Now you're making about $2,500 per month. Okay, and this is just the start. This is just the way that we're moving into the right direction. Once you start servicing 4 to 6 loads a week, well, now you have more exposure. There are shippers, receivers. If you got into a manufacturing plant that does, roofing material, now you can Google, the largest roofing materials companies in all of the US. You'll get a list of probably 30 or 40. And then you'll start calling them and telling them, hey, I work with so-and-so roofing company. I know your freight, and I can definitely, I'd like to represent your company. I'd like to be a broker for you guys. I'd like to, move your shipments for you. And then, with going after 30 or 40 different manufacturing clients that are in the same niche of manufacturing. So if it's roofing material, if it's plumbing material, or if it's what do we have? We have shingles, we have tiles, we have there's so many products for housing products, that if you are going after a specific niche and become an expert in that niche, you should be able to fairly quickly ramp up customers. After 6 months, I have freight brokers here that, on the lower side, after 6 months, they probably should be moving anywhere between 7 to 10 loads per week after 6 months. Now, 7 to 10 loads per week, I mean, think about it. I mean, dispatching one load or working on one load a day, seems, you could do a lot more than that. But if you're doing 7 to 10 loads, that's $700 to $1,000 per week. That's only billing at 10%, but you are going to stumble upon companies where you're going to bill at 15, your profit margin at 15% or 20%. So again, the potential earnings that are there. I mean, if you stumble upon 3 or 4 really good customers and you're moving 10, 12, 14 shipments, 15 shipments a week, well, now you have yourself a money-making machine in the freight broker world. Right. So you are building, I mean, now you're starting to create relationships with carriers. Now you have ongoing carriers that are going to, that want your freight, that are going to move your freight. You have steady freight. You can definitely build relationships with carriers. Now, if you want to educate yourself a little bit more, I mean, you don't just need to buy a freight broker course. You can, there's a lot of free information online that we provide through our YouTube channel. There are others in the YouTube world that, that specialize in freight brokering. I know that, on another hand, not just freight brokering, that this whole dispatch service has become extremely popular. So either some people want to take the avenue of doing freight brokering, and then there are others that want to take the avenue of dispatch servicing. Dispatch service has become huge in our industry of recent, probably in the last 2 years. I see it more and more, this whole dispatch service coming out. So in order for you to launch your company, I mean, you can definitely, the actions that you can take to kind of educate yourself a little bit more is obviously watch YouTube videos on logistics and freight. You can listen to entry podcasts, join Facebook groups that are, freight broker Facebook groups. And obviously you can decide to, if you want to go more in detail, or if this really interests you and the potential earnings is there, then you might want to actually consider taking the full freight broker course. Now, to get your broker authority, now it's fairly simple. I mean, you really need to go and to legally broker freight in the United States. You need a motor carrier number and a US DOT number. You apply through the FMCSA and you get your unified registration system. Now, that's going to cost you $300 and it's non-refundable. All you got to do is go to the FMCSA website, complete the OP-1 form, wait for your MC number to be issued. Okay. The next thing you're going to need to do is probably secure a freight broker bond. So that's going to cost you, you're going to need a $75,000 bond. I know there's a lot of you that watch our load booking videos, and you really get a kick out of them because there's millions and millions of views on them. But this is what a day in the life of a freight broker or a dispatcher really looks like. I mean, we're constantly hunting for carriers, or we're constantly hunting, freight brokers for work. That is our job. But in order for you to do that, you're going to need a surety bond, the $75,000 surety bond. Ahmed Mohammed Var invites you to co-host. Sorry. So the next thing we have here is set up your home office. So obviously you're going to need a location where you're going to run your business from. Now, if anybody has any comments, or questions on how to set up your either your dispatch service or your freight brokerage, then this is the time to ask away in the comments. So I'm not going to answer any questions about recruiting for ET Transport. Being a freelance dispatcher is profitable or a company dispatcher. So this is a perfect question. There's two different types of dispatchers. There's dispatchers that work for a company, and then there's also freelance dispatchers. But after you take a dispatch course, you should be able to freelance dispatch, or you should be able to at least go under a trucking company or a dispatch service, and you should be able to start taking clients under yourself and dispatching owner operators. It's easy. I've seen it being done. You just need somebody to teach you the ropes. And a good dispatch course will do that for you. So if you are looking for a dispatch course, I can link up mine below. I think the freight broker is the most competitive occupation of all trades. So I probably don't agree with that statement. I think that the freight broker business is competitive, but very well doable. We have freight brokers that are, start here. We do feed them some leads, and once they know, how to service a customer, or they've taken our freight broker course, definitely, you should be able to start getting your own customers slowly. Yes, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It doesn't take a week or two and then you have, 15, 20 different customers. It is a slow game, and, you do have to, put the effort into it in order to find your customers. It's not easy to find customers, but very doable in our industry. Let's look at some more comments. Fortunately, I called like you told me, but your gatekeeper wouldn't let me speak to you. Okay, Jamie, I understand that you called me. Please understand that I do get a lot of phone calls throughout the week, and we can't just let everybody. I am usually busy in back-to-back meetings most of the day. My gatekeeper, she does do a phenomenal job. If you just let her know why you need to talk to me, and she'll be more than happy to connect you, or at least you can send me an email. Now, setting up your home office, either for the dispatch service or for the freight broker service, really all you need is a laptop. You need two monitors or one monitor, depending how you want to go. To tell you the truth, I was just on vacation with my family. And yes, I know it's not a good comparison, but with time, you should be able to. One of the things that I learned about myself, and one of the things that I learned about the company, is that wow, I can really be in a different location, not in the office, have my headphones on, be attached to my to my phone, and I'm still able to run the show, and to be able to either service customers or to be able to run departments here at ET Transport, doing that remotely. And I think that the dispatch service or the freight brokerage service, not maybe right at once at the same time, but it can give you the flexibility and the luxury in order to do that. So, I mean, I would love if somebody took me back 20 years and asked me what it is that I want. Honestly, I'll be okay with being trapped to my desk for the next year or two, but I really want this flexibility of, being in different locations of the world and servicing my customers, either dispatching them, or the freight broker model can definitely, get you there. And then obviously scaling. So once you have a model that works, whether it's dispatching or freight brokering, you definitely want to scale it. And how are you going to scale it? Well, you need a system that works before you can scale it. So home office is very, very important. You need a high-speed internet. You need a desktop or a laptop with dual monitors, pretty much the setup that I have over here. I do have my whiteboard over here. I was going to use it, but then I understood that it's not so user-friendly, or you guys wouldn't be able to see a lot of the stuff that I'm writing. With voice over IP phones, it makes it easier and easier for us to, I no longer have a phone on my desk. Everything is voice over IP. Everything is through my laptop. My laptop rings when somebody calls me. I have a virtual phone number, and it is great. Noise canceling headsets, I don't need it here in the office, but when I go away, I definitely need it. When I'm at the airport, I definitely need those noise canceling headsets. If I am, when I was in Mexico, definitely needed it. Do you need a printer? Probably not these days. You don't need a printer anymore. You need a scanner. No, you don't even need a scanner today with the cell phones. You could pretty much do anything. If there are any comments, guys, leave them below. If you have any questions, you guys are more than welcome to ask on how much money we need. Okay, so somebody asked about the bond. So in order to get started, you do need a $75,000 bond, okay? So the way that the bond works is you have a bond. Once you have a bond, you're registered. Once you're registered, the world can see that you're registered through the FMCSA, and your profile will have a bond attached to it, meaning that if you ever don't pay a carrier, if you fail in your payments, people can really just go after your bond. It's $75,000 bond. How much does that cost? It's a monthly fee, I think, probably around anywhere between $200 or $300 for that bond per month. Let's see what other questions we're getting here. Hey, Ronan, good day to you. Good day to you too. When do I think the volume will bump up? So the volume of freight is going to start bumping up. It's just a matter of time. So I think we've seen already the lower end, and I don't think it's going to go any lower than it is. Today's national average for freight rates, I believe, is $2 per mile for the month of June. Flatbed division, probably the most stable division right now, is $2.54 per mile. And then the reefer division is at $2.35 per mile as a national average for North American freight. What do I think about that? Definitely a little low for the van and reefer division. The flatbed, probably the most stable one right now. So if you are going after customers, if you are going after if you are opening up a brokerage firm, right now that there's difficulties in finding trucks in the flatbed division. That's kind of who the customers that you want to go after. So you really need to know what's happening in the news. You really need to know what's happening in the market. And when you know what's happening in the market, then you can kind of, find clients based on the pain points of, the things that are happening in the market. So I want you guys to know that once the freight rate starts going up and climbing up, everyone is going to start, all these manufacturing plants are going to start looking for carriers. The carriers are not going to have capacity. The freight brokers are going to come in there. They're going to offer great service to a manufacturing plant to be able to broker their freight. They're going to, and then the profit margins start going up. Right now, the profit margins are tight. 8%, 9%, 10%. There are 15%. There are 20%. But once the market starts picking up, those profit margins are going to start becoming larger and larger and larger. And yes, I have seen them at 30 and 40%. Now, can you imagine brokering out a load that pays $5,000 and you just made $2,000 out of that $5,000? Some people say that it is morally wrong. Do I think that it's morally wrong? Absolutely not. You're doing a job. And if you're able to find a carrier that is happy with $3,000 while you can pocket $2,000 in your pocket, then that's what it is. People forget very, very fast. As trucking companies, we used to bill $4 or $5 per mile during COVID, right? Imagine somebody coming to you and telling you what you can and cannot do, or what you can and cannot bill. Broker transparency, yeah, sure, there should be broker transparency. If anybody wants to know what a broker made or how much you billed the manufacturing plant, that should be, sure, public information. It's not a problem, as long as it's requested in the right way. I don't have a problem with that. Let's go into some of the questions that we have here. Do you have to choose one or the other, broker or dispatcher, or can you do both? Very good question, Scott. So I'll tell you what I would recommend. So the dispatch course, I believe right now it's posted at $185 for the course. That'll take you about 10 or 11 hours to do. The freight broker course, I believe, is $245. Does it make sense to take the both of them? They're very, very different. Okay, the dispatch course and the freight broker course. You can technically do one or take the course, see where your heart, or even do both courses, see where your heart lies. Don't forget, I started in dispatching. I started as a trucking company, and then in 2014, I think it was, probably 7 years into it, that's when we opened up a brokerage division. Now, a dispatcher or a trucking company, it's not a bad idea to have a brokerage arm of your trucking company. So should you do both? Why not? If you have the means to it. Courses today, especially our courses, they're probably the best $185 you'll spend. What's another $245 to do a freight broker course? Because if you're even going to open up a trucking company, even if you're going to dispatch yourself, even if you're an owner operator and you're driving on your own, if you're going to do a freight broker course, it's going to greatly benefit you, because you might land a shipper or two, and which is extremely lucrative. Hard to be a dispatcher, without of customers to put a track on a load board. I don't understand what you're saying. Hard to be a dispatcher without owner operator. Okay, so the way the dispatch service works, guys, is you just provide your service to an owner operator. If an owner operator has his own plates, has his own authorities, he probably has access to the load boards. They give you the access to the load board, and you are going to dispatch. You're going to book a load on the load board on the owner operator's behalf. The confirmation is going to go to the owner operator, not to you, and then you're just going to make a cut. Now, cuts for a dispatch service anywhere between 5 to 8%. That's, without a truck, without a trailer, without a driver, 5 to 8% of the gross earnings. That's not a bad idea. And there are a lot of owner operators that are willing to find good dispatch services. Was about becoming a lease operator. Okay, I'm not going to talk about lease operators now. How the trucking company nowadays? Well, the trucking companies are, okay. Everybody's in survival mode, but I think it's getting better and better. Ronan, is almost impossible to get hired as a dispatcher with no experience. Even though I'm a flatbed driver, I'm almost giving up. Ronald, I don't know which dispatch, what dispatch training course you took, but you should be able to get hired as a dispatcher, an entry-level dispatcher. Okay. One of the things that I offer in my mentorship sessions is exactly for people like you that, if you finished a dispatch course and you're having a problem finding, a job, one of the great things about the mentorship sessions is you get to meet other people in the same situation that you're in, which means that, people brainstorm off of each other's ideas. People, one person is an owner operator. The second person is, a dispatcher, and they get together in the mentorship sessions and they end up opening up their own company. Or you have a lot of husband and wife teams that, come to the mentorship sessions that want to learn how to dispatch themselves. So they take the course and then we help them kind of, step by step on how to set up their company and how to finally get their own authorities and find the work for them. So, getting hired, I really think you need to have, the right circle of friends or the right circle of people that are in the same situation that you're in. Through the mentorship sessions, you'll find that. Okay, got it. Sorry, live session about freight broking. Perfect. Okay. Do you think it's easier to start as a broker if already have a small fleet? If you already have a small fleet, then you are ahead of the game. If you're in the US, I don't know if you want to start. You don't want to make that like ET Transport, for example, has a wing of the brokerage division inside ET Transport. In the US, a lot of freight brokers see that as kind of a negative, or they see it as they don't want you brokering out their freight, so they won't give you work if you have a brokerage division. So you might want to open up a brokerage division that's different than your actual trucking company. Let's go into now. With the big companies in the USA going out of business or moving overseas, recovery is going to be painful. Absolutely. There's a lot of companies that are going out of business. There's a lot of dispatch services from overseas. You are competing against, other countries. Even in dispatching, if you're an American dispatcher, you're not going to work for less than $50,000-$60,000 a year. But there are dispatchers sitting in other places in the world that are willing to work for $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month. So there are pros and cons of using dispatch services. It's all about what you provide. At the end of the day, it's 5 to 6% of gross earnings. Doesn't matter if you're here or anywhere else. You might get a better deal with somebody that's somewhere else, but you need to understand that as an American or as a Canadian, you probably have, an advantage of why people would want to work with you. Okay. Let's see. Next comment. Can we split the bill of the course and watch it with a friend? Honestly, to tell you the truth, I can't control what it is that you do on your end. One person would get a certificate. One person would get a, the modules emailed, the PDF emailed to them. If you guys are two people there watching in front of a computer, there's really not much that I can do about it. Can we split the bill? Okay, next. There will be lots of dispatch jobs available when this government puts an end to the foreign dispatch services. To tell you the truth, I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see about that. But obviously, if a bill comes out and there's no more dispatch services out there, yes, there will be a ton of jobs here for dispatch services, and the rates will spike up because there's a lot of trucking companies that are taking advantage and are recruiting from from other parts of the world, which were much cheaper than the Canadian bill or the US bill. Thanks for the insight. Not a problem. Do most trucking companies have a brokerage department, or is that rare? So most trucking companies have a sales department, and that sales department, goes after manufacturing plants, and usually the excess work that the trucking company cannot handle, they will broker out. So they should have their brokerage license. But yes, most trucking companies do have sales departments, and that sales departments go after customers. And as brokers and freight agents, sometimes you take a freight brokerage course and you understand that you don't want to become a freight broker. You understand that it might be better for you to become a freight agent, and you can become a freight agent for any company that you want, like ET Transport. We'll take for an example. There's a lot of times people finish the course and then they become freight agents for ET Transport. They don't want to go through the hassle of opening up their own business. They don't want to go through the hassle of getting their bond and their insurance and their authorities and yada yada. So what they do is they tackle along to a company like ET Transport. There's many companies out there that you tackle along, and then you go like on a 50-50 or 60-40 split. And that, for a lot of people, that is really what they want. They're a freight agent. They work under the umbrella of a company. They represent the company when they go talk to the manufacturing plants. That company will probably end up giving them, their CRM system, their tools. They'll give them the call, manufacturing plants to call, or they'll give them definitely the CRM. They'll give them a phone line, an email address with the ending, and then they represent the truck. They represent the trucking company when they're going in to solicit. Or they will also give you access to their load boards like DAT, or for us, we use LoadLink. Right. So that's when you're becoming a freight agent under a trucking company or a brokerage company, you will get access to all these things. All right. Any other questions here? We got TikTok. What do we got over here? So are you hiring flatbed drivers? We're not going to go into that. You're looking hired. EU. Okay. I lost my dispatch position. I did for 18 years because they went overseas to India. Yes, that is happening more and more these days. Guys, any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'd like to answer some questions. If you have any questions about setting up your own brokerage business or setting up your dispatch service, feel free to leave the comments down below. Can you explain what double brokering is and how best to avoid it? So double brokering is when a company, if we are a carrier, we receive from a broker a load, and then we were to take that load and broker it out again. There are a lot of companies that do this on a regular. Double brokering, in my eyes, is wrong. It should not be done. But there's a lot of players that still do it out there. Okay. I'm planning to become an owner operator. I'd like to know what's best way to find my first loads after getting my own truck and trailer. The best way is to get into a dispatch course. You need to know how to dispatch yourself, how to negotiate, how to find, good paying customers, loads. So if you took a dispatch course, it would definitely teach you how to find loads. Yes, we go into detail on, what do you do as a new carrier when nobody wants to work with you? There are workarounds. There are ways around it. So yeah, you can definitely, once you take the course, it'll definitely help you explain how to get loads as with a new MC. All right. What other questions we got over here? Let's see. How long does it take to set up your freight broker business? Okay, so how long would it take? So freight broker business usually you could get it up and running in probably 6 weeks, I would say. You should be able to get it up and running. But, when you're waiting for your authorities and your MC and, the corporation, you can pretty much do online in seconds. When you are doing your, while you're waiting for it, you can already start your cold calling. You can already start, working on building your book of business. Let's go into the next question. Sorry, guys, I'm on a few platforms here. So Realistically, how much can I make after 1 year of working as a freight broker? So realistic numbers. I have multiple, freight brokers that are working here. The profit margins are a little slimmer right now than they were before. Obviously, once the market takes off and we're in an uphill, where rates are starting to climb up, you'll be making a lot more. But realistically, after 1 year, you should be making anywhere between net in your pocket about $1,500 to $2,000 per week. That is realistic. To make $2,000 per week, you're probably moving around 7 to 8 loads, maybe even 9 loads, but 7 to 8 loads is not much to move, and that's what you're going to be making $2,000 net in your pocket per week. Now, after 2 years, you should probably be making around $300 to $3,500 per week after 2 years of working and being an independent freight broker. Now, if you are going to work for a company and become a freight agent, okay, your process will probably work a little faster. Okay, so after 1 year, even though you're giving up 40% of your income because you're working under a carrier, you'll still be making that $2,000 per week. Why? Because you are going to be moving things a lot faster. The company that you work for is going to feed you leads. It's much easier to get into a company like representing ET Transport, right? It's hard to represent a company, or harder to represent a company called ABC Freight Logistics, right? So when you have the brand behind you, if you're working for a larger carrier, it's much easier to get into the doors, okay? If I take your course, I can have a chance to be a broker agent for ET Transport. Absolutely, yeah. So it's a great question. So if you take our course, module number 10 is basically the opportunity to be a freight agent for ET Transport. Okay, so obviously we'd have to interview you after you finish the course. I want to understand, what your goals are, but we have a program in place for freight agents here at ET Transport. So whether you're in the US or in Canada, we hire both, and you have the ability to become a freight agent for ET Transport. There's a whole, it's module number 11 that's dedicated, and module number 10 teaches you how to become a freight agent and gives you 10 companies that are currently recruiting freight agents. Okay, so the way that we built out the course is we did the course. Once you get into module number 10 is, okay, I open up your own freight brokerage, or you want to become a freight agent. Now, if you want to become a freight agent, there's a PDF document. Here are the 10 companies that are currently hiring. Now, if you want to become a freight agent for ET Transport, then you go into module number 11, and it'll tell you everything that we offer and what we offer and how we offer and the split commission. Okay, so being an owner operator is best to deal with government companies and private lenders. Yes. Okay. Will brokers trust a new carrier for their first load? How can too many comments coming in. How can I build a strong MC history from day one? So definitely, online presence is huge. You need to have an online presence in order to build a strong history. You got to make sure that people don't leave negative reviews. But again, when you have a new when you are a new carrier out there, it is hard. So your first shipment that you do, you probably want to ask the broker to leave you a review, and then you're more trying to build a reputation where other people see, and why would they trust using yours, especially when you're new, and especially when a lot of fraud is committed with newer carriers. Guys, there is 4 minutes left, so if you have any questions, this is where you ask. Okay. Different platform. I need my DOT and MC first before I lease to truck company, or just put my truck on my name and go. Sorry, that has nothing to do with the courses or freight brokers. It's all about your network. If you can't get trucks, okay. If you have a new MC, good luck. Okay, in this business is in the UK. Sorry, how much is your course? Might have been asked before. Okay, so the dispatch course is $185. I will link it down below. The freight broker course, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is $245. I will link it down below also. Okay, so in both scenarios, okay, sometimes you want to take one course, you might want you're more inclined to be a dispatcher, you'll take the dispatch course. If you have in your mindset that you want to dispatch truck drivers on loads, right? If that's more of a thing for you, then you should be taking the dispatch course. If you want a freight broker business where you're talking to manufacturing plant, you're servicing customers, that's more for the freight broker course. Okay, so it depends which way you want to go. How hard is it to get hired for a freight agent with no experience, Ronan? In all honesty, we hire our own freight agent. So if you finished our course, right, there is a way for you to get hired by ET Transport as a freight agent. We also give you the 10 companies that are hiring right now freight agents once you finish the course. So to find a freight agent position will not be hard for you to do because we hire them, and we also give you the other companies that are hiring freight agents. Scott, all of our prices are in US dollars. Unfortunately, it is a US store with US courses, so it's all in the US. Okay, now dispatch startup in Atlanta, ready to start, including website, domain, all for $700. Thank you very much. Let's delete your comment. Now, do we have to learn Canada and US when taking the course? So the course is more designed for Americans, okay? This is a US course, not the Canadian one. The dispatch course does have a module for cross-border freight, but everything was designed, it's for Americans. Our channels are all American. 90% of our viewership is American. The courses were all designed for US, for the US, but also there is extra modules in there that are Canadian, okay? Now, what are the biggest mistakes new owner operators make in their first year? That is a whole separate live session on its own. Hey, Ronan, I'm 23 years old, currently driving a box truck while my grace period on my CDL ends. I drove 160,000 miles last year and paid off my truck. I'm planning to buy a truck. What's my next step? Your next step is a dispatch course or a freight. I don't know if you want to, I think you should get your class 1. Box trucks only has a certain plateau and you can't climb past that plateau. So I personally feel that you need to get into trucking, into semi trucks, 53 footers, and I would get into the vans to start with, then work my way up in the reefers or flatbeds. Once we have taken the course, how long do you have access to the material? It's actually lifetime access to the material with your username and password. So you should be able to join. You can have access to the material for life. Next, let's see if there's any other. What insurances does the brokerage currently carry? So you do want to carry insurance. What does our insurance cover? It's a good question. I know we have an insurance policy. I know that we do have, if the carrier that we hire does not have sufficient or has, if we did something wrong by hiring the wrong carrier, our insurance will kick in and will pay for any damages or anything that happens. So they'll be able to earn 10K above per week. Okay. What else we have? Well, I guess I got stopped. So that's all the time that I have for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this live session. If any of you guys are interested, I'll post the links in the comments or I'll add them to the video. But if you guys can take a second and maybe give this video a thumbs up just to get the algorithm pushed a little bit more. If you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed my videos, give this video a thumbs up. I would really, really appreciate it. Last comment I'm going to answer is, hello, Ronan. Are you agree with Trump English proficiency? Don't you think comes from Canada to the US? Do I believe that there's, in the English proficiency? That's a very, very good question. Absolutely, I believe in it. I think that if you're driving a truck, a semi-truck in Canada or in the US, there should be a certain level of English speaking, reading, and writing. So I do believe that that is the correct decision. Enforcing it, what should be done about it or how they're enforcing it, maybe I don't agree 100% on how they're enforcing it, but I truly believe that, before anybody goes into a truck, there should be a test in English. But I also think that this should be from the issuing the licenses, not just the carriers hiring. But I think that, the license should not be issued to anybody who doesn't demonstrate that they can speak, read, or write in English. Meaning that if you don't pass an English test, then you cannot get your class 1 license. That's my opinion. I don't think that, I think what they're doing now is really too late in the game of, when they're trying to to enforce it. It's not while the driver. Can you imagine, like, a driver just spent $5,000, $8,000 to getting his Class 1 license. He starts working. All of a sudden, he gets pulled over by DOT, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, you can't drive this truck anymore." Like, come on. When he did his learner's permit, he shouldn't be able to get his learner's permit, or he shouldn't be able to get his Class 1 license before he learns English. So I think that that's a requirement. And I think that once you get your license, then obviously you've already demonstrated that you can speak, read, and write in English. Thanks, Ronan. Hit the like button, everybody. I appreciate it. Absolutely too late. Okay, that's just my opinion, guys. Hopefully you agreed with some of the points I made. If you do, give this video a thumbs up, and I will catch you guys in my next live session. See you guys.